Welcome to a very special Saturday night live edition of the Cross Border Interviews with Chris Brown. I'm your host, Chris Brown, and I'm pleased and honored to have in studio meetings for the second time in person the leader of the Green Party of Alberta. Doing this is an honor and a pleasure to have you on the show, and I look forward to discussing the issues that are important to Alberta, but also that are important to the Green Party of Alberta. So Jordan, thank you for being here.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So as I'm going to say, as always, if you can just use your the outside voice and the inside, that'd be greatly appreciated.
Yeah,
okay.
All right.
So Jordan, let's get this out of the way. You're here in Calgary, attending Calgary Pride tomorrow. What's it mean for you to be marching in this parade tomorrow through with hundreds of Calgarians and even Albertans lining the streets tomorrow?
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. I want to acknowledge that I'm on Treaty 7 land, Métis Region 3, and I was just actually looking at it, the traditional name for Calgary being Wichispa Oyate, and I probably messed that up, but I like it. It's a pretty nice name. So tomorrow is Pride, that's why I'm here. I wasn't going to miss it. It's really exciting for us, especially with the Greens, because it's nice to get some acknowledgement back that we've been an ally to the LGBTQ plus community. And, when I guess this is a special year because they started allowing political parties back to march and to represent. But they were very selective. So you had to apply, and they had a sort of a council that went through and looked at the organization and looked at our policies, our track record, our history, our representation within the leadership of our party. And we were deemed a true ally of the LGBTQ plus community, and that's an absolute honor. So, when you get recognized like that, it's time to come out in full force and to really show up, and that's what allies do. So of course I'm here, and I'm really looking forward to tomorrow. I've got the kid and my partner's going to be with me. The deputy leader, Brandy Kincaid's going to be there, and she's bringing her duck. It's true. She's got a little wagon with her ducks, so she's working on that. But she's amazing. And Evelyn Tanaka, Jonathan Parks, our VP, and then Evelyn as our president. So everyone's been working really hard, and I'm just really excited to reconnect with the Greens that are in Calgary and around this area, and to march with good people for a good cause.
The last time you and I sat down, well, not sat down, but last time you and I met in person was at the Calgary Public Library.
That's right.
You were at the beginning of your leaders tour across Alberta. I know you made stops here in Calgary, and I think you did Cochrane, if I'm not mistaken. You'll be able to correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah. Let's follow up on that tour. What did you hear from Albertans? Was there any pressing issue that when you spoke to Albertans across this province that they were bringing up to you over and over again?
Doesn't matter where I go. Generally, people are dismayed and disenfranchised by the current political landscape here in Alberta. Often they come to us so excited about a lot of the things that they care about, the values that are not being represented in the legislature, and also parties that do not have the political will to speak to, some of the issues, things like climate change, of course, being a big one that we get a lot. But, even just the inequality in our society, the growing inequality, inflation, issues that stem from the poverty in this province that, with a province that is now 13 billion of surplus, the fact that we have poverty at all is a crime against humanity. There's no other way to look at it because poverty is a policy choice. And I think that we need to, ensure that when we're going out and talking to people, they know that there's a party that holds values, that wants to represent them. The unfortunate part is that we are in a political system with first past the post, and the way we elect our officials, that it makes it very difficult for parties like us that want to be real, want to be authentic, want to represent a growing portion of the population in Alberta. We just don't have the ability to do that under an undemocratic colonial system like first past the post. We can talk more about that later.
But let's talk about it now, because
Absolutely.
it seems like it's something you're passionate about. I know you've made a few posts on social media about proportional representation and how the first past the post is undemocratic. Why? Why proportional representation? What is the benefit of proportional representation for not only the Green Party of Alberta, but for Alberta as a whole province?
Well, when you look at the political system, there's just let's not even look at the system right now. Let's just look at the reality of the situation. We have a duopoly. We have the NDP and the UCP, who are obviously very powerful. They're fundraising millions and millions of dollars, which a large portion of that is taxpayer funded, right? Because that comes back to us, and people forget that when you're asking for donations, where do you think that money is that you're getting kickback for? So I digress. The issue right now is that we have a UCP government that a large portion of the population did not want. They had 55% of the popular vote with about 67% turnout. That doesn't necessarily mean they should have 100% of the power. So the system that we have is basically an elitist colonial system that no democracy would ever pick on their own. It's something that's been handed down from elites that allows big tent parties to hold their power and to control the legislature. So I don't know where to start and where to end on this, but basically when you have, for the NDP majority, they had 40% of the popular vote, and you're now got 100% of the control. And then with the UCP, it was 55% of the popular vote. Whereas in proportional representation, 55% of the popular vote would give you 55% of the seats.
So I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate with you, because
Please.
you know I like doing that on this show. Some would say proportional representation would give a fringe minority view a potential seat in the Legislative Assembly or the House of Commons, whatever level of government you're looking at. Would you be okay with that if, say, and I say this lightly, but if, say, the Wild Rose Independence Party got a seat in the legislature, would you be okay with that? Because 4% of the vote, the population of Alberta voted for the Wild Rose Independent government. Would you be okay with that?
Well, when you talk about fringe parties, it just doesn't happen under PR. What you generally have is a threshold that needs to be met. So, for example, it's generally 5%. So you need to have 5% of the popular vote. So if you're getting 5% of the popular vote, you're actually not a fringe party. And you should be probably at the table to represent a large portion of the population that is disenfranchised with the big tent parties and is going in your direction. What a lot of people talk about is like extremists getting into the legislature, and that just generally does not happen. This is the most used system in the world, and the developed countries that are similar to Canada, almost all of them use this.
You talked about the undemocratic and colonial system that we currently have, first past the post, under a proportional representation. And I followed proportional representation.
Yeah.
Sorry, everyone, tongue-tied tonight. But there is concern that if you have proportional representation, it would lead to minority governments. And you would constantly be in an election cycle. And we all know that we don't like elections. We like some stability. Is there a benefit of having that minority system under a proportional representation election and a legislature?
Yeah, just to unpack what you said, basically you don't have a minority government. You have a coalition government, which is more appropriate to talk about under a PR system. So when you have a coalition government, you actually have a more sustainable government, a more stable government, and there's less elections. So, yeah, I don't know how much you want me to go into this.
No,
because I can totally geek out.
Well, let's geek out. Let's geek out together, Jordan, because I enjoy this type of policy wonk type of conversation.
Yeah.
Hopefully our listeners will like it as well, because I think when someone's passionate about a certain subject, whether it be proportional representation, I want to know where that comes from, because if if you were to get elected and put a bill in front of the legislature, you would have to get the majority of MLAs to potentially vote for this.
Right.
They get elected, the NDP or the UCP, under the first past the post system.
Right.
You're saying, well, no, we need to change that. How do you get the other parties on
Right.
board, or how do you get this passed? Because now
that's
people are saying
that's a good question.
Yeah.
And just to finish with the whole coalition government thing, when you're in a minority government, it does create instability. You get a bit more accountability. However, you get instability because what happened, like let's say in BC, start of the pandemic, people are distracted. They had a snap election and they got power. So that wasn't for the betterment of the people. That was because they were trying to seize power, which is what the Liberals had just done as well during that election. They weren't happy with a minority. With the PR system, you get the accountability and you get the stability, which is helpful, especially in a place like Alberta where people, where you have a flip-flopping, oppositional two-party system, which is very diversive, which creates a lot of hate and it creates a lot of angst amongst the voters and a lot of disenfranchisement.
But how do you change it, though?
Yeah, okay.
At the end of the day, how do you change
Yeah.
it? Because you can say to your blue that we should change it. We saw Justin Trudeau pledge it in 2015. This is going to be the last election to first past the post, and then his
terrible.
way of choosing of how elections wasn't the approved under the committee. So he said, "Well, we're not going to do it anymore. We're going to continue with first past the post."
Yeah. Well,
so how do you change it?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, again, there's a lot I could talk about there. And we can get back to Justin.
We will get back to
Justin. But what we can talk about is how do we put this through? So the idea that I'm putting out to Albertans is that we, at the Green Party of Alberta, we have 6 core principles, one of them being participatory democracy. Now, the other principles, interestingly enough, things like nonviolence, social justice, and respect for diversity, these all come out of a proportional system. You have less... And I'll get back to how we're going to do this, but you have less inequality. You've got actually a stronger economy, generally 1% on average, better than governments that use first past the post. You have less deficit, 39% basically. You have stronger environmental protection. You have usually a stronger public system for education and healthcare. So you're winning, and all of our values win when we move to a stronger democracy, and that's for the people, not for the elitists. Now, how do we do that is we basically run in this next election. We're already a protest vote. So why don't we protest the system? Why don't we protest the strategy, a strategy against the systemic issue of why the people's voices are not being represented in the legislature? And so if we had made a promise that we would run, mostly on proportional representation, it works like using the game to change the system. And I think that that's the invitation to Albertans to get involved if they feel like it's time for a stronger democracy and a way out of the mess. You can be stuck with the duopoly for, I don't know how long. But in this next election, we have the ability to change this. So if a protest vote picks up movement, it becomes a revolution. So
I just want to clarify something here for a second, because you said the Green Party is already a protest vote.
Absolutely. Under this system, it really is.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's like we can be honest, because we don't have a large percentage of the popular vote at all. There's a lot of people that hold our values, but they generally vote for other parties, mostly to block what they want the least. This is the crux of the first past the post system. So when you're not voting for what you want, you're voting for what you want less, and you're blocking people. So all I can hear is block the Conservatives, and we can get to Daniel Smith and what's coming for us. But really, this system is not set up for smaller parties to come out of the light and people to vote not strategically, but vote for what they believe in. So we're generally used as like a protest vote, because if not, you're voting NDP or UCP, you're blocking the person you want the least, right? And that's the crux of the problem.
And I've always said on this show, you should always vote for what you believe in and not vote for what someone tells you to vote for.
That would be lovely.
Yeah. It would be lovely. It would be lovely in a perfect kumbaya world
Yes, exactly.
where everyone got along and everyone voted for their true values and their morals and who they want to best represent them, instead of, like you said, voting for something to stop someone else. But I could go for like a 4-hour conversation on just that in
That's
itself.
it. And that's the basics. And I think that everyone in their heart knows that, right? There's something that I've been saying a lot lately is that, you're either part of the problem or you're part of the solution. This is definitely a solution. So be part of that solution. The other thing I'm saying is you're either part of the problem or you're part of the solution, but no one's the full problem and no one is the full solution, and that is a lie. And what those two parties are doing right now is saying that we're the solution and that they're the problem, and you're never going to get anywhere.
I will say this for a little bit of a piggyback onto what you just said there. It's also the people in the media who need to start doing that, because in my field of work, I know that there are people who won't talk to certain parties because, well, they're not in the legislature, so they don't mean anything, right? Yeah. But people vote. People vote for the Green Party, and we need to address this, because if you don't, you're telling the people who vote for certain parties who don't vote for the main parties that you mean nothing. You're nothing to us. So that's why I'm hoping that this small show can start a conversation and actually get the word out for you.
Yeah, it's really tough, right? And that's the thing. If we come out and say, look, we're here for PR, we're going to legislate PR. Some things that I've said in the past, which people have really perked up about, is, and I think I actually said that to you, it was one of the first times I said it, was, why don't we bring in PR, legislate it, and then run another election. And then everyone can talk about their values straight up.
Yeah. And
people can vote for their values, because now it's not about blocking other people. And that's not this hypothetical world of make-believe. That is what's happening in most... out there?
No, something just stopped there for a quick second. I do apologize.
I thought we got hacked.
No, I hope not. I want to turn to because we could probably talk about proportional representation for a good hour, 2 hours, 3 hours.
And we will, because a lot of these issues will come back around to it. But I'll try not to geek out too hard.
No, we will geek out, but I want to make sure we touch on a few of the issues that you brought up already, and that was inflation.
Okay, yeah.
You said that Albertans are talking about this. I know from the conversations I'm having with people across this province that inflation is hitting their pocketbooks. The cost of living is going up. People are struggling right now. We hear reports of food banks being emptied because people can't afford groceries right now. You talked about the surplus, the $13.2 billion surplus that was just recently announced earlier this week. I use air quotes as announced because it wasn't really announced. It was more, hey, we're going to put it towards savings. You're saying we should use it. We should use it to help address some of these issues, particularly poverty. If the Green Party was elected right now, what would they be doing with that surplus?
Right. The 13.2, I think that's really not as much as we should have as well. I don't know where that money's gone, and that's a larger conversation. So it's mismanagement, and what's going to happen right now with that money is they're going to try and use that to buy their base back, right, for this next election. Again, going back to first past the post, this is the games that people play under these systems, because it's not about what's best for the people, it's about how to keep power. And you saw that with the NDP coming in very, very high on the virtue signaling, and once they got in, of course, no proportional representation, and they ripped up a very timely LEAP manifesto, which would have really done wonders for our chance with climate change and the environment. And then they lost power. And then you had the other kid in the sandbox come over and start kicking down all their sandcastles. So this is the game that they play with this money. What we need to do with the money, first of all, we would instill a universal basic income. And we would do that immediately, because we know that every trial that's ever been done shows that it costs less to do that. it costs less to get people out of poverty than to keep them in poverty. We need a housing first program similar to Finland, which would get every homeless person off the street, because again, we know that it costs more money to keep them on the street. So why are we allowing our politicians to tell us that these issues are complicated when all these prices are skyrocketing? And also I just read great articles about why universal basic income doesn't actually raise inflation, because I'm sure that's something that viewers might be thinking.
It was about to be my devil's advocate conversation that I was about to pose to you.
Moving around money doesn't create inflation. Just making money. So when you instill a universal basic income and when you legislate it, you would be moving money around to the people that need it the most. And by doing that, you alleviate a ton of costs like health issues, crime, the inability to even collect taxes from this group, so the lost opportunity costs of these people being in society, not to mention just the well-being of communities and our ability to withstand these ongoing issues that are hurting Albertans right here and right now. So again, there's nothing hypothetical about the success of a universal basic income, and for the Greens, that's just common sense for us.
Some might say that by having a universal basic income, and yet again playing devil's advocate here for those who are watching this right now, please don't come after me. This is what I've heard on the Twitter sphere, which we all know Twitter is completely real, and everything that is said on Twitter is the exact word of whatever power you believe in. But I want to talk about I want to challenge you a little bit here.
Sure.
They will say universal basic income is basically guaranteeing someone that's going to sit on their butt and not work.
The lazy,
the lazy poor. Yes, the lazy challenge to this.
I believe that was Nixon era messaging.
So what do you say to that? Because I've heard it, and is it just giving money to people who are quote unquote lazy and poor and don't really want to do anything else but just collect money off of the big government?
It's actually a work incentive, because it gets people off of things like EI and other benefits that keeps them from not working, right? Because again, they don't want to go back to work because then they'll lose this, and then how will they pay? And then there's chance there, and there's no safety net. So this gives the people, first of all, it takes away other things that they'd be getting, and it gives them something that they can depend on and budget for, whether they have a job or not. And so it allows people a safety net. They can get retraining. They can work jobs that they appreciate. They can work. They can go retrain, especially like new Canadians that come across. They don't have equivalencies in, like, let's say, healthcare, which we could really use right now. It allows them the safety net to go back, get those equivalencies, and then join the workforce properly instead of just bouncing around. Again, I could go on and on and on about this.
Which I would love to, but we have a lot of talk. We have a lot of conversations, and
UBI for the win for sure.
Is that one of the platform policies that you're going to be running on in the next election?
Absolutely. I got to be careful about this, because our strategy is adapt and overcome right now. So right now I'm really focused on participatory democracy. I'm really focused on a proportional representation, electoral reform, so that we can all work together to ensure that poverty is eradicated, that these issues take hold. Right, so that's first and foremost for me. But of course, mainstreaming things like UBI, housing first, is pivotal to our platform and all our messaging.
Now, I should mention before we continue on here that if you have a question that you want to ask Jordan, please write it down via the website or YouTube. Jordan's is graciously accepted the offer to answer some of your questions. We already have a few that come in. We're going to talk about them a little bit later. But I want to turn to the big... I guess it's the big Alberta story that a lot of people are talking about right now, and that is Sovereignty Act. Danielle Smith is one of the candidates for the United Conservative Leadership, replacing Jason Kenney, who is going to be leaving here in October. Not potentially, he will be leaving in October.
He might find a way again.
Premier of this province. She has pledged a Sovereignty Act to challenge any issues or any bills or any laws that the federal government passes that she doesn't like or Alberta is not in the best interest of Alberta. what's your position and what's the Green Party of Alberta's position on the Sovereignty Act? And because no one's seen it, it is not written yet as of recording. She said that she's going to release it next week sometime. When next week, but we're not sure. Are you in favor of challenging the federal government in this type of way, or is there a better way to work with Ottawa? So, Sovereignty Act, what's your position, and then how do you work with Ottawa?
Yeah, just going back again. You really think she's going to win? Do you, Chris?
I don't know, and I'll be honest. I've talked to conservative supporters from across this province, and I hear very diehard Smith supporters. I hear I'm not voting for them, and if she wins, I'm leaving the party. So it's a very split vote. Now, does she grow after the first ballot? I don't know. So unless she wins on first ballot, which we've seen Conservatives don't have a tendency to do that in past leadership races, besides Jason Kenney, I don't know. And I'm watching. Do I think? Is there a chance? Yes. But am I 100% certain? No.
Right. This is the next 4 years that we could be looking at. A politician that makes Jason Kenney look like a very reasonable person. And so this is the world that Alberta is moving into. It is hateful, and it's divisional, and it's ludicrous. The Sovereignty Act is just doublespeak. It's because all they're doing is working their base. They just want their base votes. Again, first past the post, at its worst, in effect. So here we go. How do we have a separatist party without separating? You create this make-believe thing called the Sovereignty Act. It doesn't matter if it's constitutional or not, because all they want to do is control the narrative. And once you control the narrative, everyone's talking about you, about your thing. Your name comes out first, and you generally win. That's the populist electoral strategy that's been working since Trump. And it's happening right now. Here we are in our province. And so we are, listening to double speak that doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't have to, because she's just peddling her base. And I think it's just a way for her to say that she's going to separate without separating, and try to have, win on both sides of the voting, because it's all just about her getting elected. What's my take on it? Again, it's ludicrous. And I think that...
Do you think... So I think there's been poll after poll of a rise of anti-Ottawa disgust, whether it be Alberta not getting a fair deal, whether it be Trudeau's overstepping his bounds on provincial issues. What's your opinion? Do you think there's a reasonable position for Albertans to be upset about what's been going on with Ottawa and Alberta's relationship?
Yeah, I think none of this would have happened if Justin Trudeau, that jackass, would have just done what he said and made sure that he had proportional representation. Then they would have had a coalition government, which would have represented more Canadians, including Albertans. And then you would have had a federal government that was working with provincial governments. So right there and then, it's all connected. It's very frustrating.
For clarification point, that was George saying that. That was not me. So we would love the Prime Minister to come on the show, but
come on out, Justin.
Come to Alberta.
You're gonna get yelled at, though. Yeah. You want to talk about that?
We will in a few seconds, but I want to stick on to this. Are you in favor of renegotiating our deal with whether it be the transfer payments that Ottawa collects from Alberta, whether it be provincial health care, whether it be RCMP budget that the province gives to Alberta? Are you in favor of sitting down with the federal government and renegotiating some of the big items that are currently facing Albertans?
Of course. We always need to be renegotiating. We always need to be representing the people of Alberta, and that means being at the table. Now, who's at the table? That's what I keep talking about.
Yeah. And you see that table as a diverse table, as a party that is
right. What I'd like to see.
Yes, you would like to see it. You'd like to see a table that's diverse, that is not just made up of Green or NDP or Liberal and
100%.
PCs, but you want to see a diverse table made up of everyone.
Absolutely.
Can you work with all the parties? Like, can
Well,
you
you
go
should.
have a
It's your job.
conversation with Rachel Notley tomorrow and have a conversation and sit down and have coffee with her? Or would you be able to do that with Danielle Smith? I know you've just said Justin Trudeau's
Yeah.
explicit, but
Well, I think that we should be honest. We don't have to like these people. I don't like Rachel Notley because she, again, said she was going to do things that she didn't do. And the way she treated her time in power disenfranchised me from politics altogether, so much so that I actually just stood up and looked at the value systems and became the leader of the Green Party of Alberta. It's because of the decisions that were made during the Notley era, where I thought had so much hope, and I saw that disintegrate into the greed of power in this system. And but doesn't mean I wouldn't speak. That's what our job is as politicians, is to represent people and to work together. And then I think that people are missing that point. There should be a large amount of collaboration, because all you have right now is a government that's in power and a government that's in opposition. And so, yay, you get this fancy title named Leader of the Official Opposition, and you complain for 4 years, and you ridicule someone for 4 years, and then that person says they're going to step down, then you thank them. And it's just all fake. It's just none of it means anything. And I hope that, I know that there's good people in every party. There's good supporters in every party. And that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that the game sucks and that we need to change it by playing the game. And that's why we can vote in this next election. You can vote in Greens, and we will promise that we would legislate proportional representation, and then we would have another election. Things like that. I want to see a radical shift of the systemic issues in our society. But absolutely, we need to work with one another. I mean, look at there's proportional representation in Ireland. And so you have a sort of more right party. I can't pronounce their names. It's Gaelic. It's more right party. Then you have a centrist party. Then you have the Greens. And they, under proportional representation, like, imagine this. They get together in a room. They come to agreements about what's important for the people that they represent. They put out a 50,000 word document of what they're going to do over the next 5 years and how they're going to work together and collaborate together. They go to the point of saying, okay, you're prime minister for 2.5 years and you're prime minister for the next 2.5 years. Let's get this done. They all shake hands and they get to work. They get to work for the people that voted them in under a representative structure. That's what I'm looking at. That's what I'm saying is an option. I'm just trying to give an option. And so I think I've grown up a lot since I've talked to you last, because I was still saying, all right, here we are. Here's a young party that wants to represent people. We want to represent those that are not represented currently in the system, especially Indigenous people that care about land stewards like farmers, and the agricultural system here. It needs a stronger voice, and no one's going to come to the table with us, because it's all about blocking the other party. And so until we can put something on the table which deals with the inability to have collaboration and coalition governments, then what's the point? So I'd like to just kind of go for the win here.
So how do you go for the win? Let's
we need candidates.
But here's the thing. We're gonna have a conversation.
We need to plant the seed here.
We're gonna have the conversation right now, and I feel like it's one that we've been skirting around here for a few seconds. But let's do this. How do you do it? Because you have to get elected.
You have to get elected.
If you run a full slate of candidates, if you play the game, you run a full slate of candidates. You're going to have resources in 87 ridings across this province.
Right.
You need the match.
You need the money.
Well, you need the money, but you need
which we don't have.
You need one seat first, because one can turn into 2, can turn into 4, can turn into 8.
That's the traditional way of doing this.
So you're planning a full-out blitz.
I can't do it without the people of Alberta, right? So I need to have people that will stand up and say, okay, I don't agree with everything under the Green Party. However, I would represent the 6 principles, which are basic good people principles, right? Like respect for diversity and nonviolence. These are important. Like, this is our core.
Yeah.
If you can represent that, and then you want to bring proportional representation to Alberta, then you can run for us. And so what I'm saying is we need 87 people to come together and run on this, and then we can
Are people
legislate
coming?
it. Well, I've just started talking about it
No, but are
in
people,
that sense.
because while I don't
People are interested.
I don't want to speak out of turn.
Yeah.
You have a year, less than a year.
Yeah.
You have 7 months to do this, and you need to.
And we have nothing to lose because we have nothing to lose. Other parties have a lot to lose. They got millions of dollars into their marketing schemes, and they've this is the chance to go behind a banner of one of the green principles. And this does a few things for us. It gets us out of the duopoly, and also for the Greens, it shows that something that generally people don't acknowledge with us is that we're not a one party or one position, one issue party, which is usually the environment, right? So we care about other things more, not just the environment, social justice and a stronger democracy being some of the big issues that we care about. So again, this is important for the Greens, just to come out there and say, look, this is how much we care about fixing our democracy and having a stronger democracy for the will of the people. And I think that people that, all the hyper-partisan bullshit can just, take a walk, and people can just get behind this, regardless of what their identity politics are in the past. And this is something that I tried to do. This is the very first thing I tried to do as the leader. You might find this interesting. I can't remember why we got in contact, but it was literally for this reason. I was speaking with David Swan, the former leader of the Liberal Party, the Alberta Liberals. And he had just been asked, David Conn had just stepped down. He'd just been asked to be interim. He said, no, I won't do it because we need to think bigger, basically. Be realistic, which is kind of where I'm at right now in politics, is let's be realistic. What can we do? What can we not do? And I do think that this is realistic for us. He said, let's form a progressive coalition. Let's get the Alberta Party involved. Let's get the Liberals. Let's get the Greens. See who else wants to come to the table. We need third-party representation. And it was great. We went out and Ken Chapman got involved, and the Alberta Party came out to talk to us. And unfortunately, the Liberal Party just, again, failed to come out, just disintegrating. But they're holding on to the name. I don't know why, but they didn't come out. And we had a great talk with the Alberta Party. It's nice to see another party that wants to work in a collaborative effort for the people of Alberta, which is important. But again, there's a lot of ego. Oh no, we're running a full slate. We're fine without you. And the things kind of just disintegrated from there.
Which is weird,
but it's
because
unfortunate.
If I'm not mistaken, in 2015, the Greens, the Liberals, and the Alberta Party all got together and they ran one candidate in one riding.
Right, yeah.
Miss Laurie Blakeman ran as a Liberal, but she was carrying the Alberta Party banner and the Green Party banner. Could you see a potential scenario where you would like to see the parties work collaboratively and say, you run your candidates in these locations, we'll run in these candidates. We promise not to overlap, and say, hey, if you want to believe in proportional representation, the parties all agree with it, let's work together. Let's not try to take each other's votes from each other, and let's actually have a real election where people will have the chance to vote for proportional representation.
Yeah, sure. And that was even before I came up with the die-hard need for proportional representation, because I was still trying to work within the system. I was still trying to say, okay, who wants to come to the table? Who wants to collaborate for the betterment of Alberta? Imagine what this could look like, right? Because I'm not from politics. I'll remind any viewer that doesn't know me, I'm a firefighter. I'm a disaster manager. I work at the Red Cross. I'm a humanitarian, right? Fellow firefighter.
Unite.
Yeah, that's right.
There you go.
I didn't actually realize that after the first conversation, but yeah. So we, I'm coming from the sidelines here, and I'm looking past the curtain, and I'm going, this is brutal. How do we change this? And I think that that's what we need more in politics. I've got some really amazing, very smart political advisors, and they kind of steer me towards the traditional partisan bullshit, unfortunately. And I think it takes the fire away from me. I think what I need to do is constantly be that person that's just looking from the outside, saying, I'm not, I didn't want to do this. I'm stepping up for the right reasons. I'm stepping up for the future of my child. I'm stepping up because I care about the people. I spend my whole life caring about people I don't know and helping them and thinking about them. And this is the big disaster management move, because what we can do is, use some more firefighting analogies. We can spray water on the smoke all day long, but until you come in and hit the seat of the fire, you're not going to put that fire out.
Yeah.
And the other option is you just let that whole house burn until it disintegrates. So what's happening right now in Alberta is that house is on fire. And we can spray water at the smoke and say, we're going to do this and we're going to do that and elect the Greens and elect whoever. But right now, we have to get to the seat of the fire. We have to put water on that fire. And that is electoral reform. That is the golden ticket for all of Alberta to get ourselves out of this mess, because it's just, the house is on fire. And that's what's going to happen. And we're going to get more divisive. There's going to be more division. There's going to be more hate. There's going to be more anger. There's going to be more people knocking down sand castles in their sandbox. But the NDP also don't even have a chance. In my opinion, we're going to go through this all over again. Why are we doing this? Why doesn't the people stand up and say, first past the post is not working for us. We're now stuck with the more extreme version of the UCP, quite potentially. And then you have, again, Rachel Notley and the NDP complaining for another 4 years.
Are you afraid?
Yeah, it
seems
sucks.
like you're afraid. It seems like you're worried about the future of this province.
Imagine, yeah.
I know, it wasn't trying to be a glib comment.
But you know what?
It's just...
Also, politics is it's about the position for a lot of people, whereas I don't see it that way. And I'm not okay with positions. And if I get a seat, then it means that we'll have 3 seats and we'll be stronger. And, I just want to see... I want to see my child grow up in an Alberta that, is not hateful, that doesn't completely destroy their environment and use it as a resource, and is not working together and is not thinking about the most impoverished people of our province, is not protecting people. You wanted to talk about ambulances. We can talk about ambulances. It's just insane, right?
So let's jump into that then. Let's go into that sandbox and let's try to build that sandcastle up. To use your analogy here, Jordan.
I'm worried. Well, what if you get hurt?
Yeah.
What if you get sick? We don't have a strong public healthcare system at all anymore. That is really scary. I think everyone should be scared, but also I'm so sick of the politicians using fear and fear alone to fundraise and to gain power. And that's what Danielle Smith's doing through all of her messaging, is using that fear game. But yeah, it's scary. Like, we're working now on the fire trucks. This is the first time I've ever heard of us needing to transport people. It was Calgary Fire was transporting people because the ambulances weren't coming. And of course we want to help people, but I don't want to say that's not our job, because we'll do whatever it takes to help people as firefighters. But it messes up the system, and we need to be going up. Necessarily be transporting people. And what I'm saying is the system is broken. The system is absolutely broken, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. And you can already see what the Conservatives are doing in Ontario, and what Danielle Smith, I don't even have to listen to know what she wants to do with our healthcare system. It's no joke. This is a really, really scary time, I think, for all of our public services. And the Greens are very strong on we want to see strong education, strong healthcare systems, social services, emergency services. We're on the doorstep of climate change. It's not even on the doorstep, it's all around us. Look at the smoke outside. It's just wild. It's just wild.
I want to turn to some questions that we got in, because we're almost at the hour mark here, and I want to start with one that came in about 10 minutes into the interview already, and that is the position of the Green Party of Alberta on small nuclear reactors. Does the Green Party believe in nuclear power? What is the position of the Green Party on nuclear, small nuclear modules? That's the word, sorry.
Yeah.
Garrett is the gentleman's name.
Oh, really? Okay. Oh, Garrett. Yeah. I think I know this Garrett. He's friends with our friend Rigel, who's very pro-nuclear. We have some very pro-nuclear people in the Green Party as members. Our official policy is that we are not pro-nuclear. And of course, that comes back to the issues regarding the fact that we have nowhere to put that waste. And I think that there's other opportunities and investments that we could be making instead of, let's say, propping up our fossil fuel industry with these nuclear trailers. It's just not going to actually solve the systemic issues. But I like to see how technology moves, and I've heard of different technologies that could work, and of course we're always open to it. It's just you have to show us how. Like I've said in the last interview, I spent a long time saying, till you can show me how we're going to clean up, we need to stop.
Yeah.
Right? And by stop, I mean stop expanding. Doesn't mean shut down everything tomorrow. It means we can't keep expanding, these industries, especially the fossil fuel industry. Coal. Right now, no one knows how to clean up. No one knows who's liable. Where's the money coming from? It's generally going to come from us. And now we have a 13 billion surplus. This would probably be a good time to start cleaning up instead of expanding. So that's generally my balanced stance on energy.
I thank you for that.
Yeah.
The next one comes from Stacy, and it's about carbon pricing. Mm-hmm. Do you think we're going far enough on the current carbon price that the federal government has put in? I'm assuming that's what you meant. It just says, do you think you're going far enough on carbon prices?
Do we need to raise?
Do we need to raise
prices?
it? Do we need to lower it? What's the Green Party's position on carbon pricing? And
yeah,
is it going far enough right now with everyone saying, and yet again, Stacey, if I'm saying this correctly, please write in and please tell me I'm saying this incorrectly, but is it going far enough? Do we need to do more to fight climate change?
Yeah, we need to do more to fight climate change. That's an easy answer. But as far as carbon pricing, Albertans get back more than they get taken from carbon pricing here. So the carbon tax, you actually get more. Unless you've got like 2 or 3 houses and multiple cars, yeah, you're going to pay more for your carbon tax. It's generally a polluter pays system. So I would like to see generally, industry that are polluting. I'd like to see higher rates for them. It should be a polluter pays system. I don't think it should fall on taxpayers and everyday working class people, and it doesn't. As you know, when you got your rebate this year, right? Yeah,
I didn't get one.
You didn't get one? Okay,
Nope.
What are you doing?
I don't know.
I would complain.
I haven't got one every year.
Yeah. Well, I would go back.
I owe the government a crap load of money every year, but I never have to. I never get
any
money.
I know this feeling. I've been there before.
It is so fun to write checks to the government.
Right. Imagine you're getting a UBI and you were not going from dime to dime. Right?
Yeah.
We have to. Something that a friend of mine always says is we have to. That we're talking about the end of the month. And that's Najib Judd, and he's very, very right on that comment.
Which will be on the show later on.
Najib?
Yes.
You're in for a show.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. I am too. But to get to the point, are we doing enough? No. We need to be taxing in a polluter pays situation more, and we also need to ensure that generally the corporate tax rate is up. It's 8%, if I'm not mistaken here, which is just insanely low. So the amount of subsidies that are going to these industries that pollute. Also, it's more me than my representation of the Green Party is that we need to look at environmental protection as a whole, and our focus on just carbon, for example, it can be a distraction, and without clean drinking water and clean food, and food security and our ability to breathe clean air, it doesn't matter how much greenhouse gases.
Not a question from the question from the comments, but I have a follow-up question on that. You have pledged to run in Banff Kananaskis. Well, you are looking at running.
We're looking at it. We've talked about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So one of the big things that's being addressed in that riding right now is mining on the slopes of the Rocky Mountains for coal. and there's a lot of municipalities who are very much against that.
Right.
What's the Green Party's position? I kind of feel like this is a softball for you, Jordan, but I gotta go put it on the record because I didn't talk about it last time that we had you on the show, but I want to get it on this time.
Oh yeah, we're of course against mining coal. We would shut down coal. That's one of those things that you can shut down.
Would you shut it down tomorrow though? Or would you be able to transition the workers? Because when you say you're going to shut it down, a lot of workers who are in the coal field, and again,
we're talking about metallurgical coal, right? So this is something that we export for steel. So yeah, we would shut it down. It's our policy to shut it down. Coal is just a no-brainer. I think that we can move the conversation beyond that, and the fact that that's even a discussion just shows where we're at. And during the when the NDP were in power, they were all for metallurgical mining, which again is just another reason why them just going on trends is not enough. You need a party like the Greens that are strong on these aspects. That we've been talking about banning coal mining for decades, and we've been talking about UBI for decades. We've been talking about a lot of these issues, proportional representation for decades. Like none of this is new to us, right? So it's more just the fact that I think when you're looking to vote, maybe go to the table and say, hey, what are these parties just virtue signaling? Is this something that's just trending for them because they think they're going to pick up votes, or is this what they really believe in? And go back and take a look.
Question from Gord.
Hi,
this
Gord.
question is I feel like I'm going to get attacked here if I ask this question incorrectly, so please bear with me. Okay. It's not a personal question.
Attack from me or from Gord?
No, from just people in the oil industry.
Okay.
Will you be visiting Fort McMurray and be saying the exact same thing you're saying now?
Oh, yeah. I think that we need to do the exact same. Like, why would my messaging change?
Oh,
because I'm going to get
some
beat
politicians
up.
will change their message if they're in Edmonton or Calgary or Fort McMurray because I think it's more. And Gord, if this is incorrect, please comment again. I'm not sure if you're still with us. This was asked about 20 minutes ago.
Yeah,
but I think there's a big conception that
right.
Green Party of Alberta, you are going to go into Fort McMurray and you're going to shut it down. Fort McMurray is run on the oil industry, right? The energy industry. So there might be a concern that if you go up to Fort McMurray, you may not be saying we need to transition. We need to look at raising corporate taxes. We absolutely need to raise corporate taxes. The oil and gas companies are making insane amounts of profits, right? So I'm a big fan of windfall taxes, and that's a bigger discussion. But there's definitely ways that we need to bring some of this money back from the people, because these resources, really they are the people of Alberta at the end of the day. So what you're saying here today is what you're going to be saying.
That's why proportional representation is so important, is because you don't have to agree with everything I'm saying, and I don't have to agree with everything that other people are saying, because your interests are valid, Gord. Your interest is valid. So if I don't represent you, then you wouldn't be voting for me. But there's other people that I would represent, and the Green Party of Alberta has represented. So when you have a proportional representational system, you get all those voices that come to the table, and they work things out in coalitions, which is what most countries do in the world.
We are at the hour mark.
Damn.
I know. It feels like it was only 10 minutes ago we started, but we're at the hour mark.
It's true,
For anyone who asked questions via the website, we're going to download all the questions. We're going to send them off to Jordan probably either today, later on tonight, or tomorrow morning latest. Right. So hopefully Jordan will be able to reach out.
I'll be partying at the Pride Parade tomorrow, so you'll get a little delayed response.
Exactly, but we'll send them... We'll send it Tuesday morning after the long weekend. Yeah. We'll let Jordan get back up to Edmonton.
And if anyone wants to march with us, come on out. And you don't have to be a Green Party member. Again, we're just showing up as allies and celebrating this important event.
But for those who are going to be listening to this later on, Jordan, how can people get involved? Sure. How can people learn a little bit more about you? How can they potentially consider being a candidate if they are believing in proportional representation.
Right. And it doesn't have to be just proportional representation. If the other values speak to you, please reach out to me. The best way to cut through the noise, you can go directly to me, leader@greenpartyofelberta.ca. Also, albertagreens.ca, that's our website. So all our information is on there, including some of the pillars that will be in our platform beyond proportional representation. It just depends on how we move and what the people of Alberta want from us and how we can represent them best. And again, this is what it's coming down to, is how can I represent you best? We need candidates to run because we want to have a full slate. Again, so leader@greenpartyofelberta.ca, that would be the easiest way to reach me, and I can ensure that you don't get lost in the noise.
Jordan, I want to thank you so much for sitting down and doing this. I know you are a busy man, and you came in to Calgary, and your first stop was here. Well, drop off your
drop off my little guy,
but your first stop after doing that.
It's important.
It is.
What you're doing is important.
And I appreciate you sitting down and talking with us. And like I said, I will send you all those questions that people have submitted into us, and I appreciate everything you're doing. I know it is hard to break through the noise sometimes, especially in the political climate that we're in, but I wish you all the best, and dear God, man, give them hell. That's all I can say.
Well, I can promise that I'll be always authentic, and that's what I can do. I can be real and authentic, right? And at the end of the day, I can cut to the chase and hopefully go after the issues that are going to speak to all Albertans.
Well, I want to thank Jordan. I want to thank everyone who's tuned in via the website, who tuned in via YouTube to listen. Thank you for all the questions. If you want, remember, all the links to Jordan's information are in the show notes, so scroll down. You'll be able to find it there. If you want to take out a membership, the membership link is there as well. And remember, I say this all the time, but I'm going to continue saying it until I'm 6 feet under the ground. Get out from behind social media for at least 5 minutes a day and go have a conversation with somebody. It makes our society better, it makes our democracy better, and it makes us better as a people. So with that, have yourself an excellent remainder of your Saturday night. And remember, keep talking.